Welcome to episode 716 of Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page, and that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or accounts of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds or on the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of my show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Michael Strange and Trouble Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange for having me on the network and putting my shows up there. As always, if you want to support my show, you can share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can find books I've written over on Amazon, paranormal fiction and nonfiction. You can also join the Patreon feed, to get extra content there, both shows that have been released already and new shows to come, just once a month, as of now anyway. Or you can just make one-time donations through PayPal. Support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. So I think that takes care of everything. We can get back to these true stories as we're recording here tonight. For anyone that doesn't know, I nowadays I record 2 episodes per night whenever I record, and so we've already done one, and gonna finish this night off with this one. So let me get back to the show document here. This one says, I live in Utah, near a mountain in a valley, close to Nevada, an area with abundant wildlife, like deer and mountain lions. I believe I have encountered skinwalkers multiple times in my area. The first time was in broad daylight, while driving with a friend. We saw an extremely elderly dog with a gray snout, droopy eyes and ears, hobbling slowly, attempting to relieve itself by a tree. We stopped the car to help the dog and possibly find its owner. Excuse me. As I approached, the dog tucked its tail, barked, and began slowly moving toward the street. I returned to the car to get food to lure the dog, but kept my eyes on it the entire time. The dog walked between 2 parked cars. When I approached the same spot moments later, the dog had completely vanished. Both my friend and I searched for 10 minutes, calling out and offering food, but the dog was never seen again. The second sighting happened at night. I was walking with that same friend one night in the same area. We heard a dog barking in the distance, coming from the direction of the mountains. We needed to pass the area to reach my friend's house. Excuse me. As we approached, we spoke gently to the dog to calm it down. The dog turned behind a parked car, and within the same second, a man emerged from behind the same car, while the dog had disappeared. The man walked away, ignoring us completely. We were so unsettled we couldn't speak for a while, later confirming with each other we had seen the same thing. Both encounters involved dogs vanishing in inexplicable ways. My friend, a skeptic, confirmed that they saw what I did. Something weird, and possibly paranormal, is going on in this area. I often hear sounds at night, and I think that skinwalkers might be more common than some may think. And that's where that one ends. I do want to point out that term is very specific to certain tribes, certain people in that part of the country in general. I don't know a ton of the details about that. I just know that I've heard that. But then also has been used. The term has been sort of used a lot more in popular culture since then, and applied to other parts of the country. And so keep in mind, not that I'm saying this in a negative way, but this is what I just read there. That is an account from another individual, and so I don't know how much they know about the lore there. So it could be that, but it could be something else. That again, that label has been uh, applied to, and so who knows for sure. But that is really wild, having things vanish, and then that second case, having a man appear, and then the dog disappear. That is really unusual, and that's part of the idea of shapeshifting. But also, you have to wonder, how does it just vanish? How does anyone or anything just vanish like that? So I don't know. I haven't looked into that lore, that folklore, those reports of encounters enough to know if that is also that vanishing ability is something that is common as well. I'm not as familiar with all that kind of encounter, that kind of being, to know for sure if that's common or not. But yeah, it is wild just having these two encounters in the same area, general area, and I don't know. It seems like the I wonder if the writer and their friend are sensitive, and others maybe are not, that are around them at times, or if that had nothing to do with it. It's hard to say without any of these encounters. I do think that sometimes people that are sensitive will see things, and others that maybe are not so sensitive won't in an area. But I also think sometimes weird, unexplained paranormal things just happen. And it doesn't matter how sensitive one is. Sometimes, maybe in more rare cases, you're just going to have an experience, even if you're not extremely sensitive to all these energies or beings or whatever is behind all of that. So, but yeah, that's all I have for that one. That's two sightings, and I'm guessing a relatively short amount of time, and same area. So I don't know. That is wild. Moving on to the next one here. Let me get my place again. And we should be good. Okay. This one says, my family lived in a haunted house for nearly a decade. It was mostly small things. The TV consistently switched to the news at 5 p.m. Cupboards slammed shut if they were left open. The woman who lived in the house before had died there. Her niece informed us that she had loved children and watched the news at 5 p.m. religiously every night. At this time, I often forgot my house key while my parents were at work. They were both gone before I left for school and were not home by the time I got back. One time when I forgot my key, I tried to break in, not recommended, through the old back door. It had a flimsy lock and chain lock. I was 12 at the time. I heard the chain lock move, the knob turn, and the door open, but no one was there. After that first experience, whenever I locked myself out, I would knock on the back door, and the spirit would let me in. Of course, this did not help me to remember my key either. Still, it was not a frightening haunting. It was overall very helpful. And that's where that one ends. This is the second episode in a row here where we've had an account of doors and locks being manipulated. And again, in a helpful way. This time for a kid there. Well, it was a kid at the time. But that's really amazing, too, because you have a chain lock. That's not just turning something, turning a mechanism within a door. That's actually taking, I don't know exactly how they work, but disengaging the chain, and so the door can open, and unlocking the door as well with a regular lock. So that's a lot of steps. That's a lot of energy that it would take to, if you don't have a physical body, I would think, to manipulate those objects. And it's amazing how the family found out from the niece about things that sort of matched with what was happening even after the former owner had passed away. The way that they would watch the 5 o'clock news back when that was a more common thing back before news networks and all those kinds of things. And then the fact that this previous owner liked kids, was friendly with kids, just in a regular, in general way, and so it makes sense that they would, if they sort of were aware enough, they would want to help this child at the time get back into their home. So that really is an amazing account there. But yeah, and the changing of the TV channels. I mean, it depends on. You might be able to write that off as far as I know. I've heard that different remotes. Well, remotes use different frequencies, and sometimes they can interfere with each other and cause devices that to turn on or off when they're not supposed to. But the timing of that is really amazing. So it's impossible to know there, but it's possible also that it was this spirit, this woman that still wanted to watch the news or listen to the news every day at that same time. So, and then help out with the child that was there by letting them in the house when there was no one else to do that around at the time. So, moving on to the next one here. This one says, let's see, am I on the right one? Yep, okay. Says, while getting ready for work in the morning, I saw something unusual. My daughter walked past me and entered the bathroom, but then did not turn on the light, which seemed odd. I followed her into the bathroom to turn on the light for her, only to find that no one was there. I went upstairs to check her room and found her still asleep in bed. What could have been impersonating my daughter, or why? And why, I mean. I have a functioning carbon monoxide detector, and I'm not taking any medication, ruling out potential hallucinations from such causes. And that's where that one ends. It might not be impersonation. That's the first thing I want to point out there. It sounds like it could almost be astral projection, out of body experience kind of thing, where the daughter in her sleep, what may have been thinking, I need to go use the bathroom soon, and somehow managed to appear for a brief time, and the mother was able to see her other form, her astral form, walk past, but then of course maybe it didn't reach all the way to the bathroom, and sort of merged back in with herself. The daughter's her non-physical self sort of went back to her body and just kept on sleeping. leaving the mother confused because she had just seen her daughter. Copy or impersonation is not, of course, out of the question. But just I always like to point out these other possibilities when I find these accounts, especially if it's just a one-time experience like that. To me, that seems like if it was something impersonating anyone, they'd want to be doing that often. And if it's just this one time, then hopefully it was just more of an out-of-body experience. And I do think people can witness other people having out-of-body experiences. I've heard and read about that. So that seems like a possibility there. And hopefully that's what happened. And there's nothing to worry about there. So, and I'm guessing if there was nothing else that happened at the house in general, then that could also hopefully point to that as well. But getting on back to the next one here, or moving on to the next one here. If I could use words, that'd be good. Let's see here. Let me find my spot again. Okay. So this one says, oops, I gotta scroll up a little bit again. This happened about 3 weeks ago during a Christmas visit to my grandparents in their small village home in the UK. Even though I am a rational person, I still can't explain this. My grandparents, who are in their 80s but doing well overall, live in an end terrace house. It was around 2 p.m., and I was sitting in my grandparents' living room and kitchen area. Their dogs were also nearby. I sat on the sofa with my grandmother in a distant chair, and my grandfather sitting beside me. A single loud, human-like sound. I was reading for the next word. Try that again. A single loud, human-like clap sound came from behind my grandfather's head. The sound was distinct, resonant, and not artificial, as in not from electrical equipment or objects falling. We all jumped in shock. One dog bolted, shook violently, and searched around, while the other dogs, being somewhat deaf, did not react. I inspected the area, looking for possible causes, like fallen objects or faulty electronics, but found nothing. Nothing I wasn't... lost the spot. But found nothing. There we go. I wasn't able to find anything out of place. We discussed the incident extensively, but could not find an explanation. I left shortly after, and the event has continued to bother me. On a follow-up visit, my grandmother mentioned the dog remained shaken for hours, and they still had no idea what had caused the sound. I consider this to be the most bizarre and unexplainable experience of my life, and I doubt I will ever understand it. And that's where that one ends. That random sounds like that, I've heard of accounts of experiences like that where there's nothing else before or after, nothing, no regular activity, no regular weirdness. There'll just be this one sound, whether it's a clap or a beep or just a sound of something hitting something else, and there's no explanation for it. And I don't know what that is. If that's I don't know, changes in the environment that somehow produce that sound. If it's a residual, a really strange residual of just the sound of someone clapping their hands once. It's just so weird because there's no easy way to examine the results of it. The whatever it was, because it's just a sound that is there and then gone. and there's no, like in this case anyway, there's no evidence of anything being out of place or having broken to make to provide a reason for that sound. So I don't know what that is. It seems like there's just so many possibilities there. And yeah, so I don't doubt that they heard what they heard. And then again, you have animals, well, at least one animal reacting. It is, I do wonder, it seems like it wasn't so much I don't know, it doesn't seem like there was any other weird energy associated with it because it was just a sound and one dog reacted because it heard it. But then the other dogs that could not hear well did not react to it. So that to me makes it seem like it was a physical sound of some kind, but I have no idea. But let's see if we can get one more in here before we end the show. Have a few minutes left here and go from there. This one says, I have only ever had one paranormal experience. I was 8 years old. This happened in December at night while being picked up from a private sporting lesson. My friend and I needed to cross a short bridge in a wooded area to reach the parking lot where my friend's parents were waiting. Near the end of the bridge, my friend grabbed my shoulder and pointed out a spirit or ghost sitting in front of a tree about 6 feet away. The spirit was wearing a black cloak, and it had a glowing green, transparent face. The back of its hood was visible through its face. We froze briefly and then ran to the car and reported the sighting to my friend's parents, who did not believe us. The next day, I went back to the site with my father during the daytime, but found no evidence of the spirit. My father dismissed the story while my mother believed it. My mother said that she had seen an identical figure as a 9-year-old child in the woods behind her house, also at night, sitting in front of a tree. The experience left me terrified of the dark and unwilling to cross the bridge alone, even during the day. I had recurring nightmares for months that only stopped after we moved away about a year later. Neither my mother or I have seen any other ghosts or spirits ever since. My friend and I still discuss the incident, which is the only paranormal experience we have ever had. Has anyone seen a spirit resembling what I've described? And that's where that one ends. That is a wild one. The fact that the writer there and their friend, so they have a witness, both saw something, only to find out that their mother had seen something identical. So either the same thing or some other being or entity that was just like it. Her mother had seen that kind of a same sighting, had that same experience years earlier, and the writer had no idea about it. Those are always amazing to me when you have these events where you think it's a one-off experience, and then you find out that it really wasn't. So I don't know what that was, but that is an amazing encounter there. So, and I understand them being frightened. Glad that everything worked out in the end. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.